that a non-hiring manager might have. What is the process like? What are you looking for? Who do you ding? Why do you ding those sorts of people? It's just valuable information to know. Do you have profit and loss responsibility? That's another decision maker that says, okay, I'm really interested and driven by profit and loss. Okay, well that matters, and preparing people for those types of interviews. A person that's not so concerned about those issues will have a different perspective on the interviewing process. So this just helps classify the right people that we're going to wind up talking to. So with that, I want to bring up our hosts, Chris and Ben, who are veterans, both Navy veterans. We'll ask them to tell their story and talk a bit about their reintegration experience and any sort of insights they would have for our military friends about transitioning. So we'll go in alphabetical order. Do you want to wait for the pizza?
Oh, we snuck the pizza in while you guys were actually doing work.
Got it. Fair enough. All right, so I'll hand the mic over to you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and talk about what you did when you were in the military?
Cool. Sounds good. So my name is Ben Epstein. I work over here at Lyft in the headquarters building. I help run our rental program. Before Lyft and before the other companies I worked at, I was in the Navy for 5 years. So I was an electronics technician on board a ship that was built in 1962. So as you can imagine, the electronics I learned about in school weren't particularly relevant to that big old ship. But I had a blast. I was stationed in Sasebo, Japan for 3 years. I think the best part about my job is I got to interact with Marines because we were a troop transport. It was really fun seeing that service divide and seeing how much we had alike with the Marine Corps. Like, call the restroom the head, call the wall the bulkhead, but how different we were too. So, had a blast in Japan, had a blast in the Navy, got out at my 5-year mark, which was my 3-year mark on a boat. Then I entered the civilian world, and from there, I went back to Seattle where I grew up, stayed with my folks for a year, which was a blast as a 23-year-old. Super fun. I kind of miss it, actually. And so I did that for a year. And during this year, I was going to community college. I was working pretty low-paying, entry-level jobs, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do. Because one of the things I learned about in the Navy from the recruiters is that, well, you're going to get this awesome education, become an electronics technician, and then you get out and you make 6 figures. Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy at all. So what I learned is, okay, I had to adjust my perceptions, adjust my expectations, and really get back to work. So I took that year of kind of hanging out at home with my family, community college. Then I moved down here, started working in the startup world 3 years ago, and worked my way into Lyft, and been loving it ever since.
What I like about that, and even myself, you don't notice the difference, but for a lot of people in the military, I try and talk about the transition from one service to another, right? So on submarines, you have a Marine colonel, right? He's in a Marine colonel's 05, right? 06, sorry. There's no way he's going on a submarine at that level. But there's an expectation when you get out of the military that you're going to go into the civilian world at the same level you had when you were in the military. And it's like, you're in a completely different environment right now. Thank you for what you did wherever you were. But it's materially different right here. And so you are going to have to take a step back because you're the new guy. And no one wants to let you in at the level that you were in when you actually knew what it was you were doing. And for me, that was strange because I was like, man, I'm operating a nuclear submarine off the coast of foreign countries for the purposes of national security. I should be able to go into any company and be CEO. And everyone let me know quickly, no, you cannot. You cannot come here and run our company. You don't know where the bathroom is. Why would we do that? You run things. But I think somehow now that we have to change those expectations to folks that are sitting and watching, have these dreams of coming out and being the next CEO of a massive company simply because of what they've done in the military. How do you react to that?
Well, I'd let them know that it is a different world, right? I mean, we've all changed duty stations before, most of us who have been in, and even that change in duty station is pretty big, right? Now imagine that times 10, times 100. I was stationed out in Japan, so just coming back to America from Japan was a huge culture shock. I wasn't used to it. And now when you look at that from an employment perspective, you're really shining a magnifying glass on the differences between the military and the civilian world. So I let them know to be prepared for the unexpected.
Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? What did you do in the military?
Sure. So, Chris Dattaro, I served 5 years. I went to the academy, graduated in 2009. I was a surface warfare officer. Actually also served on a really old ship commissioned in 1967, so it's not quite as old. Then I worked in a support role with SEAL teams for my last 3.5 years. Got out, decided I wanted a more stable personal life, so I got out. Went into finance because I wanted to make a lot of money. So I went through the Goldman Sachs Veterans Transition Program. Left. I was working in DC at the time, the Pentagon. So I left in camis on a Friday, packed my stuff up on Saturday, moved to New York on Sunday, walked into Goldman Sachs on student time on Monday morning. So that was a very quick and stark comparison to what I was previously doing. Did that for a little while. Then I worked at a smaller bank in DC, doing institutional equity sales trading. Also didn't really like finance, so it's kind of like when you said, left my first job. 13 months. Decided what I'd done in finance was raise capital for companies, but I really wanted to see what it was like to grow a company and what it was like to build a company and kind of get back into some of the operational components and leadership components that I really liked about the military that I didn't get in finance. So luckily, and leveraging the network, my current boss graduated school 10 years before me. We got introduced through mutual connections from finance, and so I've been at Lyft. I run operations for the Mid-Atlantic region for a little over 2 years now. So,
what about culture shock? Leaving the military and going to a unicorn startup, talk about that culture shock.
Yeah, so I actually think, the culture shock for me from the military to finance was really hard, because in the military it's kind of selfless, right? It's about the team, it's about the mission, it's about serving others. So you really feel like you're doing good, and then you go into finance and you're like, what are we doing? Someone gets mad because they made $980,000 instead of $990,000. Like, I can't relate to any of your problems. My friends are dropping bombs. Their aviators are dropping bombs in Afghanistan, or they're driving submarines. Like, they're in harm's way. They're doing important stuff, and like you're complaining about things that are just absurd to me. So that culture shock was really tough for me in terms of like. I just didn't feel like I belonged in that environment. I didn't feel like I was invested or that it was important. What I really like about Lyft is I think you get a lot of those components back, where we're doing some things that serve the community. We're doing a lot of things that are trying to make people's lives better. And so this is actually a much better fit for what I like to do and what is important to me than finance. So the culture shock working at a unicorn, obviously it's still very different. If the blueberries aren't stocked, people get upset. So it's still different than the military, and sometimes I'm like, okay,
We don't have blueberries.
Yeah, we don't have blueberries. We like hot dogs and beans, right?
Yeah, it was hot dogs and rice on one deployment.
Yeah, so, but it's great. I love Lyft. I love the people that I work with. I love what we're doing, the product that we're building.
So as a hiring manager, what advice would you have for people that are in the military right now, any branch, trying to get out and jump into Lyft? Is that possible? If it's not, that's fine. You might have to take 2 steps in order to get to Lyft, because it's like, wow, I'm really passionate about what Lyft does. So one, is it possible to leave the military and jump into Lyft? If not, what recommendations would you have for people that want to do that?
It's a couple different questions, and they're all good. So I think it's possible. Lyft is still a relatively new company. So we're 5 years old, but the company has changed tremendously. So we're still creating hiring processes for how do we identify, screen, interview, hire, and retain veteran talent. It is definitely possible. Networking is very important. One of the things that I see is the military is not very good at translating their skills from what they did, fixing electronics on a submarine, to how can I help this company get to where they want to go. It is about dollars and cents, and there's an investment in people when you get into the civilian world that's a different dynamic than in the military. And so, like, really understanding what the job description is telling you, and you don't have to check all the boxes. You should probably check, if there's 5 of them, you should check at least 2 or 3. But really crafting your narrative and your skill set to what they're looking for is I think, really important. Also, reaching out. I mean, the military, like I said, people want to help each other. I didn't get to where I am without a lot of help. I like to pay it forward. I don't think I've ever reached out to anyone who's at a company that I was interested in who's a veteran, who just didn't respond. And if they do, you don't really want to talk to those people anymore, right? So, like, network. I know it's like a 4-letter word for people with our background, but it is like, if you don't want to compete, especially at a company like Lyft, right? People want to work at Lyft. It's got great brand equity and doing some really cool things. There's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying for similar jobs, and you want something that's differentiating. So, really understanding where your skill sets intersect what people are looking for, and being proactive.
I just left the talent market, so just wound up starting a new job 3 weeks ago. And I'll be completely honest, I was surprised by how many rejections I got. There is a component of you being qualified, but people simply not wanting to work with you, or someone else being better. Did you have a similar experience then when you were coming to this opportunity?
100%. So when I separated from the Navy, I thought I had a really solid resume from TAP class, which I know a lot of us veterans have been to. I transition assistance program for those of you who haven't gone through it. Little did I know my resume sucked. And most recruiters aren't going to tell you, hey, your resume sucks, please try again. They're just going to ignore you. So what I found out through networking and from getting professional help with my resume is that piece of paper really matters. There are computer programs that scan resumes out because big companies get thousands of applications a week. So those professional resume writers can really help your resume stand out. And the other thing is, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Like with anything, it's a numbers game, right? So keep trying, and then you'll eventually find some company that's going to reach out to you. And if not, get that professional help with the resume writer or network.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Chris? Any rejection stories?
Yeah. I would say that your resume is a living and breathing thing. It's not something you should write and then forget about it. It's something you should continually be updating, continually tweaking. If you're learning new skills, if you're taking, also, no one is going to be as invested in your future or as you are. So if you're not taking, if you look at a tech company and say, I want to work at a tech company, I don't have any of the skills. There's Udemy, Coursera, skills out there where you can learn SQL, right? You can learn how to do basic coding stuff that makes your application stronger. Keep doing that kind of stuff. It's the one dynamic that I don't think veterans quite understand until it's sometimes too late is it's competitive. You have to compete. The military, for as dangerous as it can be, is the only organization that I know of where for 20 years someone is paid to tell you what job you should take, when you're going to move, what you have to do to promote. Nobody does that for you in the real world, right? Like you're a lot of times you're on your own, which it's great, right? It's a double-edged sword. You're the master of your own domain. If you don't like something, you can quit, you can try something new, or someone can fire you, so there's also a downside. So yeah, I would say that the rejection part is hard. The other thing that I would say on that is success is non-linear a lot of times, or progress is non-linear, right? You look at the stock market, it goes like this, but if you were to zoom in on it, it's very volatile. You're going to have peaks and valleys, but the trend line, as long as you keep doing the right things, I think you're going to go in the right direction.
How did you go about figuring out that you're passionate about working at a tech company? Was it, you had some experience with it, or someone told you? Like, because for a lot of us, we're getting out and we have no idea what the options are. Like, it's the world. How do you know what you want to do, where you want to do it? There's nothing wrong with going to New York and going to finance. There's nothing wrong with going down to Houston and going into energy. So how do you pick? How did you pick what it was you wanted to do?
That's a good question. I would, to be fair, I still don't know exactly what I'm still learning. I've only been out for a little over 3.5 years. I think there's a quote that I like. It's enlightenment comes through engagement, not thought. So you have to try stuff. You have to do it. You have to go out and take risks. And sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not. I think for me, thinking in terms of am I passionate about working at a tech company, I don't know. What I was passionate about is like, how can I help people? What am I interested in working on? I really hate that question where it's like, what do you want to do? Especially if you're like career military or you went in when you're 18 years old or you went to a search academy. You didn't do internships at banks. You didn't do internships at law firms. You didn't do any of that kind of stuff. So you're kind of just shooting dark. I think what you should focus on is what's important to you, what are your priorities. I always kind of laugh when guys or girls tell me they want to get in. They're getting out because they want to spend more time with family. So what do you want to do? I want to be an investment banker. Yeah. That's a really terrible decision. We're going to work 110 hours a week. Yeah. When I was working on the trading desk, I was at my desk every day by 6:30, and I was leaving at 6 or 7. I was getting up before my daughter was awake, or I was at work before she was awake. I was home. I was like, this is terrible. I would just stay in the military if I didn't want to do this. So I think more so than like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? What are your priorities? And those shift. Those are dynamic as well. So just like I think being very honest with what's important to you, what you enjoy about the military, what you didn't enjoy, is more important than the actual industry that you're in.
Do you have anything you would add?
I think Chris hit the nail on the head there. I think for me, what really stood out about Lyft, and this is my third company that I've been at since I separated, it's the people. So immediately throughout the whole interview process, I really felt like I was treated well, and that stood out more than anything. So I figured, you know what, this is a good bet to take, right? Because it's not a 4-year commitment, it's not a 6-year commitment. It's, hey, I could try this out for a few months and then go somewhere else. And hey, it worked out for me.
Cool. So I'm gonna open it up for questions, but I have one more question before I do that. If you could talk to your younger self about, while you're still on your ship out of Japan, what would you tell that younger self about transition? What advice would you give your younger self and say, don't do what I did, do it this way, it'll be much easier for you? Either of you can take it first.
Okay, so first I'd be like, it's okay to get LinkedIn. I was 100% opposed to LinkedIn. I'm like, why are all these people going on LinkedIn and bragging about their qualifications? I didn't understand. It's a networking tool. It's a recruiting tool. It's super valuable. So get LinkedIn. And then secondly, I'd say you're learning all this cool stuff in the military, working with all these cool systems. A lot of those high-tech fancy systems, actually most of those high-tech fancy systems don't transfer over to the civilian world. So learn coding. At least familiarize yourself with agile sprint planning or product development processes, all these tech, these tenets of tech that are applicable to every company. And have a contingency plan for when you get out, right? Because you might not find a job. Save money. Find a place to live with. It's okay to live with your parents. Like I said, I enjoyed it.
I did not live with my parents, but I can see how it would be enjoyable. I think that's actually a good point too, is the other dynamic that's hard is the military is like, you wear a uniform, you all have similar haircuts. It's kind of supposed to suppress individuality for the greater good, right? And so like, you're looked down upon if you try to like step on other people to get ahead. So it's weird when you're getting out, you're like, all right, now I have to sell myself to someone. How do I do that without sounding conceited or whatever you want to call it? So I think that's a good point is figure out, be comfortable telling your narrative, telling it in like an objective way where this is what I've done, this is what I'm interested in, this is how I can help you. My advice getting out to my younger self would be, that would be a good one, is figure out how to tell your narrative. The other one would be like, figure out what you want to learn. I was more concerned with like the lifestyle I want to live, and so I was like, I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna work in banking. And it's gonna be awesome. And it was terrible. I didn't like any of it. So figure out what you want to learn and be brutally honest about what your priorities are. Be brutally honest. You don't have to do what other people want you to do anymore. You don't have to do what other people think. I kind of call it actually the LinkedIn effect, where like you take a job that you may not be super excited about because you think you're going to get validation from other people. Because it's like the safe path. You go into consulting, you go to finance, you go into like whatever it is. If you want to do something, do it. It's your life now. You're the one that has to get up and do whatever you're doing. So if you're not happy doing it, make a change or figure out what it is that you are excited about.
Great. Any questions in the audience? I actually realized I had something I wanted to share with you guys. So a book that really matters to me is How to Find Meaningful Work. And there are 5 things that are critical for people having meaningful work. It's free. I would definitely encourage you guys to go out and get this book if you're in the middle of managing your own career. But the 5 things that people want out of a meaningful career is they want to earn money, they want to achieve status, they're interested in making a difference, they're interested in following their passions, and they're interested in using their talents. If you have a job that allows a career that allows you to do all 5 of those things, by the time you're lying on your deathbed, you'll look back at your career and say, wow, I'm glad I actually had an opportunity to do those things. And those are the efforts that we're trying to help you connect with, right? That's the whole point of all of this stuff. Are there people that are doing things that you find interesting, and can you connect with them and get connected to those opportunities? So again, anyone have any questions for our panel here? No pressure. All right, here's the last task. Turn to the person next to you, find the person to pair with. Oh, you have a question?
So it's related to the comment, but I want to say thank you so much all three of you for being here and sharing your experience. I work at the Veterans Success Center for War Memorial Building on Mondays, and I would say, like, first, if you don't know what your passion is, that's okay too. Like, that's a process. So I think also when we wore that uniform, we kind of subscribed like duty and what we knew it to the best of our abilities. And it's okay if you don't have that all figured out today. And I'm happy to help you as well as my colleagues to really start exploring that. And it's also a great time. I love these events because it truly brings us together and supports us. And like you mentioned that and just want to share, like there's a whole free veteran service for LinkedIn, so if you don't know about that. So there's just resources out there for us. Support us and to support each other in that process, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. My only regret is that you didn't have the mic to do it. So I will reinforce what you said, which is basically it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. I consider myself really lucky to know what I want to do. My elevator pitch for myself is using technology to reduce human suffering. I get excited about that. Like the amount of money I make, there's nothing I want on earth that costs $1 billion. I don't need to be ridiculous. I want to be able to eat and not be concerned about where I'm getting money. But what really excites me is when you get those heartfelt thank yous. When someone says, you know what, I was lost, I was confused, I had no idea what I was going to do, but now I have my genuine job. Thank you for pointing me in that direction. I'm set. That's a good day. Go home, start, and do it all over again. So it took me a while to figure that out, right? I had no idea. I was operating a submarine. Not a lot of using technology to reduce human suffering out there. Didn't have an opportunity to figure that out. But then got out, started doing the recruiting, started going to different events, started getting those thank yous. And was like, wow, I actually like this. This is cool. I can do this. So I would echo your point. It's going to be hard. It's going to take time. Don't worry. You'll get there. But be true to it. Don't betray yourself and say, oh, I'm just going to go and get the money, and then be miserable your entire, that's insane. So now you got a bunch of money and you spent your entire life being miserable. Bad decision.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. I'm going to give you the mic now. You got like if you're going to make another point.
No, you don't have to do it alone. And so the Veteran Success Center, Sports Plowshares, the VA, I know we all had probably listened to the VA, but there are organizations you don't have to do it alone. And you're not more of a man if you like bear it alone. You're actually like, it takes a lot to ask for like some advice.
Especially for us proud folks that are not used to asking for advice. Instead, figuring it out, come up with something good enough. Okay?
Yeah, I don't need money, that's fine.
Well, it's something big.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Bobby. Thank you all for putting this event on. It's really great. I had no idea what to expect. I just moved here from Texas 2 months ago, and I don't know how I came across this, and now recipe. So I really appreciate it. It's awesome. And Kristen, we had to talk after because we spoke on the phone like a month and a half ago. So yeah. But I just wanted to kind of share and maybe kind of open up a question for you. But beforehand, the transition is really tough, and it took me a long time to really realize my mistakes and how I could have improved and what I'm doing now. That's really going to, lead for a higher trajectory in my career, right? And so definitely kind of building on what y'all already said, and you, Christy, don't be afraid to ask for help. That was my biggest problem, was the pride. Getting out of that uniform and not knowing how to transition back into the civilian culture, it was really difficult, and the workplace is completely different. But definitely don't be afraid to ask for help, and it's all about networking and sharing information, right? So if you're not on Veteran Mentor Network on LinkedIn, get on it. Free resources, free people, giving advice. People like these guys on Veteran Mentor Network wanting to help. That, as well as the website you mentioned, veterati.com. Fantastic free mentorship. So kind of ending that, and if you need help with anything, I'm happy to point you in the right direction or connect you with folks. But maybe you guys can kind of share with whatever knowledge you have with the positions within Lyft that may translate well for folks that have similar positions in the military or degrees, like for analytics or operations, business, things like that. Thank you.
So I think inherently operations makes a lot of sense for military people. So I'm the operations manager. My general manager is a Navy grad. The operations manager in Atlanta, he is an Army guy. General manager is a Marine. Operations manager in Boston is an Army guy. So I think when you're doing operations, it's messy, especially at a company like this. It's fast moving. It's messy. You have to make quick decisions. You have to build and lead a team. Those are all very translatable to what you did in the military. It's harder, I think, to go from being a bosun's mate on a ship to like working in software engineering, unless you go through a long training pipeline, because you want to work at Lyft and design software and compete with math majors from Princeton and Harvard. So I think operations is kind of the natural progression, but it doesn't mean you have to do that. If that's not what you're interested in, if you're getting out of the military because you no longer want to do those things, that's fine. But then just understand that you got to put in a lot more work on the front end to become good at marketing, to become good at software engineering, to become good at something else. So that would be my input there.
Yeah, 100% agree. Operations is a natural fit. For me, I went into customer support because I couldn't find anything really above entry level. And I think customer support's a good fit for a lot of military people because for the most part, we're polite, for the most part. And also
Not to each other.
not to each other. And with customer support, we're very timely, we're very punctual, and that's important when we're dealing with customers or clients. So customer support is a good entry, I think, to the tech world because every tech company out there has a customer support arm. And then once you get in there, like I did, you can demonstrate, okay, well, I have an aptitude for project management within customer support. And eventually, if customer support's not your calling, you can go somewhere else and build off that experience you got while working in customer support.
I would say that sales is overlooked, particularly for military folks, because we're good at persuading and being persuasive and understanding. A lot of folks think, because you have a rank, you get to go in and people just do what you say. And anyone that's been in the military knows that is absolutely what does not happen. In fact, because I have rank, people stop listen to them. So you have to then just, encourage them somehow or another and understand where they are and understand the goals and sort of how am I going to get this group together? And that's a lot of what sales is, right? Like going in, figuring out what the customer's need is and helping them understand how whatever it is you're selling can help them get there. So I would throw sales onto that list as well. But yeah, the operations, hey, what are we trying to do here? What is the process and how do you get everything together to work in the way it's supposed to? I would say that is good for operations, but I would, in the back of your mind, if you like interacting with people and things like that, in addition to customer success, consider a career in sales.
I got it. So this is just an elaboration on this right here. So, I'm looking for a job. I look on LinkedIn or other job boards and sites that are out there, and the majority of these job descriptions, or excuse me, just the job titles that I look at, they might as well be in Greek to me. I don't know what they mean. So it's exhausting just to look at 10 jobs because you read each one, and even the same job title but in a different company is a completely different job. So how do you navigate that starting out? Is there a secret code or ring, a serial box you need to dig into to get that? Or is that just something you have to learn over time and just kind of work your way through?
I think that's a great question. So when I applied at Lyft, I actually applied for a job that was like way up here. But you can't tell because the job descriptions tend to be a little bit vague, but that's okay because what happens is a recruiter looked at my resume, still thought I was a good fit. But looking back at it, what I could have done better is could have reached out to somebody at the company who had the same job title, could have found them on LinkedIn and said, hey, is this a good fit for me? Or I could have looked at their qualifications on LinkedIn and said, whoa, that person's got a master's, an MBA, probably a little too senior for me. So that's what I could have done differently, but you're 100% right. So, for example, we have operations associate roles, which are relatively entry level at Lyft, but if you're an associate at a consulting firm, you're like super high up. So you just never know. My advice, reach out on LinkedIn, try to network that way and get some clarification on the roles.
Yeah, I think figuring out what vertical you're interested in, right? Is it like the jobs you're looking at, are they more operations, are they marketing, are they sales? Because are they in the same industry? Try to bracket it, right? Like try to figure out what you're interested in, because then you're looking at similar things, and they're different titles, but you start to get a fit. I think there's no substitute for experience. Even now I look at job titles. My friend got hired at Google. Like, let me look at Google and see what he's doing. And I have no idea what he's talking about. So I'll reach out and say, what is it that you're doing, and how did you do that? And most of the time the story is, well, I had a friend that worked at Google. I want to work at Google. And I reached out and said, what positions do you think I'd be good at? And they told me. I would have never thought to apply for like product design engineering manager, because I don't even know what product design engineering manager means, but he thought my skill set was matching 60% of what the job description was looking at. I think it is exhausting, like going through job boards. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache if you search like who's a Navy veteran at this company, and let me reach out to that, or an Army veteran, let me reach out to that person, say, hey, I'm interested in working here, I'm interested in sales, operations, business development, which one of these, what do you think I would be qualified for? And let people who are in the company who understand what these titles mean more than you will know, kind of navigate you to the right direction.
I would love to underline that and bold it. Let the people that are there tell you what you would be good for, because you are going to go and start applying for stuff, and then the recruiter's going to be like, no, and now it's just going to die.
I don't even know 80% of the job titles at Lyft. I look at like the autonomous stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what this person is going to do. Even then, and I work here, and I've worked here for 2 years. So really getting in with people who know the company better than you do is going to be your best bet for success.
And I would add in, having that veteran, you also have an advocate for your candidacy, which is critical. So you're not just sending a resume somewhere and then it just dies, but you have someone that says to you, hey, pay attention to this person. I know them.
Yeah, I will just note, I didn't actually apply for this job. I got it.
Or you can take this one.
I got introduced to the general manager through a mutual friend, and he put me in as an internal referral. So I never actually went on a job board for Lyft. I wasn't even looking to work at Lyft. I got introduced through a mutual friend who introduced me to my now boss, who put my resume in as an internal referral, and I went on a fast track to the interview process. And so, I wasn't even thinking about Lyft. I didn't even know Lyft was in DC, and so that would have saved me a ton of time, unless I did it manually.
Hi everybody. I'm just like you. I just came from Texas last year. I don't know. The difference is, like you were talking about, it was your choice to get separated and leave. Well, I was retired forcefully. It sucks. I'm Joe, by the way. Here I am. I graduate tomorrow from IT school at Unitech College. I currently work at the Oakland Private Industry Council. And when I met Christy with a Y, Jesus Christ, earlier, and I was telling everyone, and I spoke to Sean too, is that when we talk about networking and everything else, I'm Army and Navy. I started in Navy, but I finished off with the Army, and I love them both. But what I think that veterans are so good at, and their mindset is, you have an officer who's the manager, and I'm a supervisor as a non-commissioned officer, and I got my privates, right? He has a task, a project, tells me I'm the junior project guy, and get these guys to do things. And as far as NCOs and petty officers concerned, I think we're so task-oriented that with his issue to look for a job was, like you said, you don't know where we're going. You don't know what you really want to do, because you got up in the morning, your NCO told you to get up, put your shit on, and march this way, right? Every day, everything else was done for you, like a cookie cutter. Where now here you are, you don't know how to, you still walk left foot first. Am I right or am I wrong? So the reason why I've been institutionalized, and it's hard for me, but I get it, man. I had 6 people call me today and tell me I made it to the top 3, but you're not the right candidate. Yeah. So, hey, I'm still trucking forward. I saw this thing come up. I was at Tech Mixer last night at Impact Hub. Great. Met some few veterans in there, Pandora. One of their HR guys climbed up from the VA all the way up to Pandora. And I was looking at, like you said, look at their LinkedIn forum. Where have they been? That is their career path. To me, that's like cookies, Hansel and Gretel. I'm going to follow this. I also, like I said, I was talking earlier, I work at OPIC, Oakland Private Industry Council, as a career center. Believe it or not, there's so many programs out there that they put veterans first. WIOA is a Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. It's federally funded. So if you don't want to use your GI Bill to become, you want to be a hands-on technician or IT or get into the medical field that pays up to $5,000 worth of training, it's free. All right, tomorrow's my last day. However, if you get with me, right, I'll meet you there. All right, because we're vets. It's kind of a, so you got to pass with me. So
Thank you for that. I think there is a lot of confusion, and you hit on it in your talk, understanding what the mission is. And if you are in the private sector, I can tell you what the mission is. Profitability.
Money.
Exactly. Where's the growth?
Yes.
If we're not growing, we're not interested. You know what I'm saying? And I was really thankful when I went to work at Dow, I got to work in the finance space as well and understand seriously how they make their decisions. Where are we making the most money? That's where they're allocating resources. Exactly. In the military, that's not, no one even talks profitability. I had no idea how we paid for something. I don't know, things just showed up. And then we used them.
Yeah.
So that is one of those shifts. When you get out, you have to start thinking about the profitability mission and just think about it that way. Where can I get the most profitability? And if you go into the organization and say, hey, I can help you guys get more profitability, you're going to start turning some heads. So understand their business model, understand how they wind up making money, understand where they're going. Communicating that and getting that on the resume winds up making you a really good candidate.
Because each company has its own mission statement and vision. It's pretty much what they want to do. What are we about?
Yep.
That's their mission. That's their commander's intent.
Yep, absolutely. Great way to describe it. All right, well, we have another one?
Last one because
Last
I think we're running low.
Okay.
Hi, I'm actually currently active duty. I get out in about like 2-3 weeks. I'm at like a point where I guess like how did you figure out, like, did you decide to use the GI Bill, or did you decide like I wanted to improve myself, or just go straight into the workforce, or like what was your reasoning behind like I guess not, or like if you did improve yourself, like why go in that direction?
Yeah, so for me, I wanted to use the GI Bill because it paid me to go to school, which it was nice, but it's not the right reason to go to school, right? I should have gone to school because I had a career in mind and I wanted to get a degree in a certain field. So to be honest with you, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did that for a year, and then like I said, when I visited San Francisco and kind of saw the tech industry, I hopped down here and started a career here. But yeah, really no vision until about a year after I separated.
So it was just like a transition directly from you just stop your GI Bill, stop schooling, and into the workforce.
Pretty much. So I was doing school for about a year, and I was 23, 24 going to school with 18-year-olds, and it was weird because I can only imagine for those of you who have stayed in the service a little longer than I have what it's like to go back to school. But yeah, I couldn't really make that many friends except for the other veterans at the school. And then I realized, you know what? Why don't I try my hand at entering the professional workforce and going to school at the same time?
I want to address that because I hear now the age thing, and my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I could be swayed on this. No one cares how many times you've gone around the sun. Can you come in and do the job? And if you're willing to do that with not a lot of attitude and these sorts of things, and it's like, oh wow, when I was young, we didn't have these systems. Okay, we have them now. Learn and deliver.
Yep.
No one cares how many times you've gone around the sun. So don't worry about it. If your boss doesn't worry about it, you don't have to worry about it. But a lot of us, particularly at the universities and the process, you'll have the veterans that are like, I can't go with the 18-year-olds. You can. You want to learn about Snapchat. And the 18-year-olds are the ones that are going to teach you. You want to learn about all these, because that's where the market is. That's where that's where the future is. At a minimum, learn what they're talking about so that when your boss comes to you and say, hey, I'm looking for a new market, you can say, hey, well, here's what the kids are doing. Okay.
Well, I would say, ideally, you're right. In practicality, that doesn't always work that way. I think, say you do service for 7 or 8 years, you get out when you're, you went in when you're 18, you get out when you're 25. People who have been working, people like you want to go into finance, right? I got out when I was 28, so people have been doing that for 6 years, right? My peers who are my age group have been doing it for 6 years. So I am at a, from a knowledge-based perspective. Or the other thing so you have to kind of take a slice of humble pie and acknowledge that you're starting over. The other thing that I will say is that companies want to invest in you as an employee because it's expensive to find and hire and train talent. The older you get, the less of a life cycle the company feels they may have in you, or the more we got a hand skyrocketing over here. The more from what I understand, the sweet spot for recruiters, they're looking at 5 to 8 years because they feel you've done a career. It's harder to retrain you to think. From a civilian perspective, from a profit and loss perspective. If you've been in the Navy for 25 years, you're more set in your ways than if you've been in for 5 years. So I think it can be a harder transition for people who stay in longer, just because that's what they've done their whole life, and companies have that too.
All right, we gotta wrap it up, but you have to go. So, like, if you want to take more, we can.
Yeah, if you want to finish this point, go for it.
Okay.
I'm coming from industry, and to be fair, I've never been a vet. So I work as a representative of VMware, a software company, and I'm part of the whole Veterans at VMware program. So I've been involved in a year. Okay, Yulee, what he's saying is absolutely correct. The industry has changed a lot, especially in tech, but even the non-tech industries are changing. They're not expecting you to stay at the company for 20 years anymore. That's unrealistic. And I would say if you're 23, 25, going back into college or going to college, you actually, if you get that degree and come out, you actually have a slight advantage over some of us that have been in the industry for a bit, because you have that fresh knowledge from those 18 and 20-year-olds. So you use the Snapchat example. You're coming in with a fresh set of eyes and a look, and if you have the positive attitude and the energy, companies are looking for that. They're not short-sighted thinking, but they know that people are inherently nowadays going to change the outlook. So they don't have any problem investing in your education either, as long as you provide value to the company. If you're just sucking out the money to take education and you don't provide value to the company, they're going to recognize that and get rid of you quickly. But if you're providing attitude, positive attitude, and value to the company, age should not matter anymore. And I caveat that with, there's a lot of people that don't think like me, but the majority are starting to think like me.
I also want to thank the civilians, all the civilians that have not served. Could you raise your hand, please? Thank you very much for showing up, because we don't get jobs without you guys helping us do that. We don't start understanding how civilians look at us. We don't understand a lot of things if you guys don't tell us, right? A part of that networking opportunity. We've been in the military our whole life. We have no idea what the market is looking for unless there's a civilian that comes to us and tells us, hey, here's what folks are looking for. So thank you for taking time to come out and chat with us. I'm going to let you be the last person so you can wind up going and catching his flight.
Thank you. So your question about going to school using your GI Bill, I just want to say in sum that UC Berkeley has a wonderful program that really helps vets transition into living a life worth living, so I'm not going to try and say it well, but UC Berkeley, whatever stigmas you may or may not have about it, the truth is Ron Williams there runs an amazing veterans group and holds people into getting their education and then getting their career started. So, and just talk to them everyone. Come see me on Monday.
Okay, so the last task I want you to do is find a pair. So pair up with somebody else. Just find a partner. All right, there you go. Everybody got a partner? Who doesn't have a partner? Raise your hand if you don't have a partner. Okay. One of you will say what the next role you're looking for. What's your next role? So explain to that person what the next role is you want to get. Okay, that was quick. That was literally 1 minute. Now the other person, do the exact same thing. Explain to the other person the role you're looking for. Okay, that was designed to be quick as well. Now, when you guys get up, we're about to be done. When you go up, when you get up and start networking, don't look for what you're looking for. Look for what the other person was looking for. Try and find your partner, someone that can help them with what they're looking for. And that takes a lot of the icky out of networking. All right? Help me thank our hosts very much. We appreciate it. And now let's drink up all the beer and eat the pizza games.